Ron.
We're on.
Who are we here with?
I'll introduce. We got a guest on this week. My father. Everybody. Clint Brown.
Applause.
He never says my father.
My daddy.
Oh.
My dad is
Oh,
on with
no.
us tonight. He
Cleared out a schedule.
His very busy schedule to come here, help me out in my car, and also be on the pod. Thank you.
Yes. I came to help fix Joshua's Jeep, which is what I do. That's the only time I get to spend time with him is when his car breaks down. No,
Yes.
that's not exactly true.
No, it's almost true. But it's a quick introduction for you. You are a gospel preacher.
That's right.
He is a mechanic as well, I would say. I would say
It's
you're
true.
a mechanic.
A low-level mechanic.
True.
You fix everybody's car in your congregation.
My saying is it'll take about 30 or 40 minutes and we should be done. 2 or 3 days later.
2 or 3
Get the
days.
job done.
30 or 40 minutes every time.
Yeah.
$20 is my estimate, and then it's like $200 we're done.
That's a good mechanic. That's how they roll.
There's
That's the secret of the trade.
Exactly.
yeah. There's a bunch of other titles on your resume, I'd say.
Lawnmower.
Well, I guess homeowner almost.
Homeowner.
True, dude.
Carpenter,
Carpenter.
right?
Handyman.
Handyman, motorcycle enthusiast,
Driveway sweeper.
driveway sweeper, father.
Yeah, I like to ride motorcycles.
Yeah, motorcycle. He got me into it. He's used to race motocross a long time ago. And also, you have a
Which CC? 300?
I actually don't
When I
know.
raced?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I was 15 years old. I raced 80s.
It's all right.
80 cc.
You gotta start. You
I
gotta
didn't know
start
they
somewhere.
went that low.
They went that low. They go that low.
Interesting.
Yep. Nowadays, I think there are 85 cc's is the same class. But,
Oh.
yeah. But whenever I turned 16, I had a choice. Actually, when I was still 15, I had a choice to either continue racing or get a car. Because my dad couldn't afford both. So
Easy
I
decision.
decided to get a car, and we restored it. A 1970 Javelin.
Javelin. They don't make those anymore, do they?
Nope. But
Dang.
it was a old muscle car that you had to work on every weekend in order to keep it running.
One of those.
And but man, it was a blast.
Our cars suck nowadays, dude. Nobody pulls up with the Javelin.
I know.
You pull up with the Civic.
Yeah, like what kind of name is a Civic?
I don't know.
Pull up in a Toyota Leaf.
Yeah, dude, we used to have Firebirds. Now we got hot turds, dude. It's,
I know.
God,
Yeah.
we don't have anything
So
good anymore. Well, I did ask, because I like to ask whenever we have a guest, I like to ask the people at Patreon. So this week I asked, our first guest with a degree is going to be on. So I asked if we had any questions for somebody with a degree. And so this was the first question we got. Would you rather be chased by one slug for the rest of your life? If it catches you, you die. Or 1,000 slugs that will chase you for only 1 month will also kill you if they catch you. The slugs cannot be killed, only evaded. And they are the ultimate survivors. So for our degreed questionnaire, this is what we wanted to know.
Very important.
And
question.
what degree do they think I have?
I think I put MBA, PhD, doctorate.
Well,
Zoology.
there's your problem.
I put, let's see. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Well,
I don't have a doctorate.
you got a little something.
I don't have
You
a
got
doctorate.
a master's, right?
You
I
got
have a master's, but not in sluggery.
not a
Okay.
professional slug roller.
Right, exactly. But
Well-
so I'll have to plead ignorance on that question.
I don't know. It's tough to say.
pretty simple.
would
One
you-
slug.
What would your answer be?
I'm doing it for a month, even though it sounds like a challenge. Because your whole life would get
1,000.
your whole life you would get bored. You'd mess up. If you're getting chased by 1,000 or one slug your whole life, he would catch you one day. One day you'd be more than likely to be on a date.
Yeah, I
You-
doubt if I'd ever choose anything that's going to last my whole life as far as having to defend myself every day for
Yeah,
the rest of my life. So, yeah, the month. That's definitely probably what I'd do.
that's a bad deal.
Very true.
And it didn't take a PhD to answer that
I
question.
was going to say, what part of your degree did you use to answer that question?
Well, that was the warm up.
Okay.
So What did you say?
There are more questions?
Yeah.
Oh,
we get a couple questions.
I hope that they're a little bit more my speed.
The next one's more of a downer.
Slug's pretty slow.
So
More of a downer?
yeah, the next one's more of a downer.
Than slugs chasing you? Is that possible?
It is, because it deals with our education system.
Oh, no. These are real questions?
Yeah.
From people?
Yeah.
Really?
For only $1 a month, you can ask us real questions. So the next question is, as someone who went to college, looking back on my experience and the cost, time, effort to get said degree is often bittersweet. I enjoyed the sweet learning experiences, but the business/greedy nature of colleges and superiority of high academia professors left a bitter taste in my mouth. Would the guests say from their personal experience that their college degree was worth it, and why? Or do they believe any changes can be made to the current institution/system?
This is really a question.
It's true. Look, it's right here.
Is it a question from AI, or is it a question from...
It's from our
No, it's our
members.
Patreon.
Really?
Look.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good question, but...
I just figured we get started with slugs. I was like, we got to do the lead-in slow.
No, I mean, that is a good question. I mean, I'll say right off the bat that higher education is way overpriced.
True.
It is way overpriced, especially for the kind of education you'll get nowadays.
And by higher education, you mean like...
Well, I mean a terminal degree.
Okay.
Pretty much, well, not even an undergraduate. But anyway, I mean, because you'll get out of there with probably six-figure debt.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get a job that pays $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, on average, maybe somewhere around $50,000 a year to start.
Yeah.
It's going to take you forever to pay that back. And so it's just, in my opinion, higher education is way too overpriced. And that's one of the reasons that I've never really wanted to even go for my doctorate, because I know that for the money that it would cost me to get a doctorate, I don't think that I would ever even pay off the debt in the year. And I'm too old anyway, by the way.
No, you're never too old. Just keep learning.
Well, I keep learning, but not paying
Not smart
six
stuff.
figures to do it and borrowing that kind of money. But anyway, so I don't remember there was other parts of the question there, but yeah, I don't think that going that far into debt is worth the trade-off for what you get. I mean, I guess there are areas that maybe you could get into that would have higher paying jobs right off the bat. But I think generally speaking, on average, it's not worth it.
Okay. Let me see.
And one other answer to part of that question. With YouTube now, you can get an education if you're diligent and dedicated and you spend your time watching the good videos, good videos that are from informed people. Man, you can get an education just on the classes available and the videos on YouTube.
Dude, Harvard,
that's free.
They have their whole basically computer science lecture series on YouTube. So if you want to go take literally the best computer science course out there, you can just watch it on YouTube or pay $100,000 a semester. It's your choice.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're missing out on certain class work or lab work or whatever might be involved, but as far as just the auditing part of it and the transference of information with today's technology, man, you can learn a lot.
So are you telling the viewers to
drop out,
go to YouTube instead of college?
I'm certainly not telling anybody to do anything,
Okay.
But I'm saying my opinion, especially from my purview, what I do for a living and being a Bible educator and everything, you can get excellent material on YouTube. Go to my channel. By the way.
Perfect plug. You got a YouTube channel.
I worked it in there, didn't I? It's BiblicalMuse on YouTube. M-U-S-E. Biblical M-U-S-E. It's all one word. And so you'll see my mug on there. And then, and it's just getting started. So,
wait, you've had that tag for a while, though.
I
don't think I've heard the origin of Muse. What made you think that of a Muse?
It originated as an email chain.
Well, it's our
right?
email address, BiblicalMuse it's our email address. But I don't know. That's a good question. I don't remember.
Sometimes they just come. Sometimes they just come. Yeah. One day I was a little boat.
Sometimes you're typing everything into the email and it won't work, so you just like
I do
use something
remember
crazy.
now that you mentioned it that I had an email
chain
ministry, whatever you call it, bulk email article that I used to write, and that was several years back, and I called it Biblical Muse, and it was like an article that I would send out to a bunch of people, but I stopped doing that a long time ago too. So I just had that name still in my head, so that's what my YouTube channel is.
It's a cool name. I never hear anybody be
you know what
musing.
A muse, right? It's a thinker or a somebody.
I did not think that's what it was. I thought it was like medium.
No.
I thought you were saying, I don't know why I thought that.
Amuse, like a short for amusement.
Well,
biblical entertainment.
That word. Muse would be a thinker, somebody who's focused and all of that. And to amuse would be to take a break from that.
No way. So anytime you get amused, you're not thinking?
Well, that's what the origin of the word is. You guys didn't know this, really?
No, I didn't. You should make a second channel called Biblical Amusement, and it should be like a bunch of like bloopers.
It'd be the opposite of the muse part.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the A is before these words, like atheist?
Yeah, I know the negative.
Opposite.
A, yeah.
It's the alpha privative is what it's called. So it negates the rest of the word. So amuse would be the opposite of muse.
What's the other one? Now, man, I'm blanking on it. But there's one to like put a mask on that also has to do with entertainment. Oh darn!
Amazement, is that one?
Like
that works?
Man, I cannot remember it.
I don't know that
amazement,
the etymology of that word, but that's some amazement. Amaze.
I do like etymology. I've been learning German, and that's like my favorite thing ever is to see all the words that we come from. Frankreich. That's the old German, not Hitler.
What is that? I was going to say? It sounds a whole lot like some Hitler stuff.
Los Gates. But that was all the questions we had from the Patreon members. I did have
we exhausted the list.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they're popping off a little more than others, but I did have questions of my own because I was just thinking all day and some of the days before then about what I should ask, and I was like thinking of questions that would specifically pertain to an elderly person. And I was thinking,
hey bro, it's my dad.
Did you grow up around hippies?
No.
No.
No?
Now,
were you
technically speaking, the hippies would have been before me.
Okay.
Because they would be like the 60s, with what's called the hippie movement.
So you never really got to,
and
in your life
70s.
You didn't experience any kind of the.
So were you not walking around like bare feet?
No.
Or anything like that?
Now, so that would be like my older, like my aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had any uncles, maybe some aunts that would have been closer qualified to that. But so no. But whenever I got older, we weren't called hippies, but I was in a band.
Oh.
So I had long hair.
You were called a rock star.
And
that's
most
what that's
people
called.
just associate a hippie with somebody who has long hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was a rocker, I guess you would say.
Yeah, what is that? That's what do you call them?
Rock star.
It's not really a rock star. It's kind of.
What else?
Is it punk? Is it technically punk?
No, that's a different kind of
it's
music
just
genre, right?
A rocker or a metalhead or a hair band from hair band days.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think like your area where you grew up really was like a hippie kind of area.
No, rednecks.
It was more redneck rocker.
Yeah, Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma. It's rednecks.
Let's go, dude.
Hippies didn't make it that far, I guess.
Yeah, hippies were more, on the left coast, kind of the more liberal group, and we were more conservative, down home country.
Except for your hair.
Traditional values. Well, yeah, I mean, I was a little bit counterculture, but as
far
as where I grew up. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you ask him? Why hippies?
Well, I was thinking of the year he was born. I was thinking 1969.
69.
And then I was thinking about Woodstock, and I was like, there's some hippies there. I wonder if he had to.
But see, that's when I was born, so I wouldn't have known anything. So a little bit later, the hippies were probably kind of phasing out, and then by the time I got to be a teenager, that was kind of an outdated thing.
Do you remember the first song you listened to?
It has to be on American Graffiti. You ever heard of that?
Nope.
Wait,
my youth
artist?
is failing me.
So I don't remember all of the songs, obviously, but it would have been the 50s, late 50s probably, and they even come out with a movie called American Graffiti. Mm-hmm. And I might be wrong on the dates. Maybe it was in the 60s. But anyway, have you ever heard of the Big Bopper? I'm talking to some young.
The Big Bopper?
To some young.
We're trying our best. The Big Bopper?
The Big Bopper.
I've heard of the Big Whopper.
Yeah.
I know you can get one.
It's not going to be worth me trying to describe it. But so anyway, that's
Doo-wop.
the question. And you wouldn't have known that because you're way too young. But American Graffiti was probably the bigger selling album back then, and it was always in record form.
Yeah.
And so my parents used to listen to that, so that would probably be the first thing I ever really heard. And I remember several of those songs.
Wait, so it was an album called American Graffiti?
Yes.
Well, who's the artist?
It's a collection of different artists. Oh. It was like a soundtrack for that movie.
Oh.
It's about the days
of
for
the movie.
when you go to the drive-in,
yeah,
get a hamburger, and you meet all your friends there and so forth. There was no
so you went
social
to
media.
So you unironically went to drive-in movie theaters? Sometimes I forget about that.
I did when I was younger.
Do you remember what you watched?
Boy, honestly, I think Grease.
Oh, that's such a cool
let's
movie
go.
to watch.
I think I saw Grease at the drive-in theater. Boy, I'm trying to think if I can remember any other specific movies, but I know that I went several times.
And Grease came out in the 70s?
Yeah, it would have been late 70s.
Wow.
Okay.
And they, you had the speaker, and you hang it on the inside of your window.
Yeah.
Was it only one speaker?
I think so, and it hung there by the driver's side.
Was it loud or quiet?
One
was everybody
side.
kind of huddling to one side of the car?
No, you could hear it fine. It
okay.
wasn't surround sound.
I was going to say, yeah, you didn't have surround sound?
No, it wasn't surround sound, and there wasn't like thumping bass, but yeah, you could hear it. But it was just unique because you sit in your car.
Wow.
And if you're in the back seat, you probably had to,
You get on the roof.
But of course, that was just a big deal. Yeah, a lot of people would get out of their car and stuff, but. I remember going to probably a handful of those when I was growing up, and then we started going to theaters. So,
wow, dang,
that's funny
stuff you take for granted. You take for granted.
I think the
does it say it's off?
If it's off, it's on.
It's off. It's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else do we take for granted? We go to now you go to the IMAX and you get your whole body shook and vibrated, and it's probably not good for your cells.
Get yourself.
It's like
now we got heated seats in the theaters.
True, we do.
Way too good.
I'm old enough. I love to go to the theater, but only if they have the reclining seats.
Yeah.
Because I snooze.
Best 2 hours.
None of the
your life.
movies are worth it now.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I watched the King Kong thing. King
cracks
Kong
me up.
Godzilla.
Is it underground in this one?
It was just so over the top. It was just ridiculous. And this is an old dude talking, I know, but
my dad doesn't like movies where if it's too unrealistic.
Yeah, it's like that could never happen.
I don't like it. I don't like the Godzilla movies either because it's like how does it just living underground and then burst out of an icicle?
It's
and
just ridiculous.
It's not for that though. It's for just like watching.
It's fantasy.
Boom,
Yeah, but it's
turning off your brain for 2
this
hours.
is just over the top. Everything, all the action was just so over the top that I was worn out and fatigued within about 15 minutes.
And there was
It's time to
32
take a nap.
King Kongs, right?
Oh,
There was like
I don't
40 of them.
I don't even remember. But we did go this last when was it, 2 days ago? 3 days
Saturday.
ago? And saw a good movie about World War II based upon...
The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Okay.
That's what we saw.
It was some special ops effort that was that Winston Churchill organized and such.
The ministry, what happened?
Now, that's my speed. I like that.
That sounds like my speed too. What? I didn't even hear about it coming out.
It's called the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. But when I first heard of it, I thought it wasn't. It's based on true story about like the first like Black Ops kind of group that was ever established, and it was by Winston Churchill in World War II. But the whole movie is just set about their first mission, and it was really good because got a lot of action, but there was real characters in real life. How do you say that?
Well, it was loosely based on a true story.
Yeah. So like the characters were actual people.
Yeah.
Is it like the start of MI6? Is it the same deal or no?
MI6?
Isn't MI6 the British version of the...
Oh.
I guess that's the CIA. It's not really Special Forces.
I don't know.
It's like the British version
And
of...
this wasn't an official militarily organized thing. It was Churchill hand-selected certain men because he knew that their past and their characters were just right for the job. So they really weren't even part of the military, but they were good at what they did and so forth. So. Can
you imagine Biden putting together a military or the ungentlemanly warfare?
We'd have Lizzo.
We got
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about who else he'd pick.
That'd be cool.
Some transgender.
Dude, Churchill was a gangster, bro.
Yeah.
If you go look at his museum, like all of his museum artifacts are like cigars and little watercolor paintings he did. So he's just smoking cigars, doing like delicate paintings.
That dude drunk alcohol every day.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep.
Smoked
pretty much all day.
I think he talks. There's a thing that talks about. Let me look up his routine.
Like however old, 90 years old before he died.
Churchill.
Incredible.
There's like a routine he had every day. It was like, okay, here's his routine. 7:30, wake up, remain in bed, eat breakfast. So he got it to him. That's hype. Read newspaper, work, glass of whiskey and soda. 11, out of bed, stroll around garden, supervising estate, whiskey and soda. 13, which for Americans is 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Multi-course lunch, imperial pint of champagne. Work and 15:30, work from study, glass of cognac. I don't even know what cognac. Cognac? I don't even know what that is. 1700, hour and a half of nap/siesta. A habit acquired during his time in Cuba. Okay. Cubans know how to sleep. 1830, wake up, bath, dress for dinner. 2000, I don't even know how to say that.
A bath in there somewhere.
He probably reeked by that point. All the stuff he's drinking. Lengthy dinner with guests. Another pint of champagne. 0 o'clock, work and study more cognac. 1 to 3 bedtime.
You said it late.
So basically, you can either be Mark Wahlberg, you can be Marky Mark, wake up at 4, or you can go to bed at 3, like Winston Churchill. Take your pick. That is a lot of alcohol for one day.
It's a unique individual. I mean, and yet the kind of courage that he had and the leadership that he showed changed the course of world history.
Definitely did. Because they were losing until the British were losing bad until he kind of took over. Like, there really things may not have gone the same way. There's obviously a lot of factors, but
it's just incredible that, like, during the Blitzkrieg, you have a month of Nazi bombing of London and, England, and he's able to rally the moral support of the people during every night they could expect bombs and that kind of an attack. But anyway, so yeah, it's just incredible that he he was put there for such a time, I guess, and turned the course of World War II.
I'll be checking that movie out.
Yeah, it's good. I've been watching a lot of movies that were set in like World War II. Like I just watched The Pianist yesterday. You seen that movie? It's old.
I started it. If you ask your mother, I probably started it like a dozen times, and then I was out.
Chair's getting a little too comfortable.
Yeah, I don't really remember much about it.
It's I think it's one of the best movies of all time, like on
Whoa.
the list. But it came out in 2002, and it was
it's Brody,
Adrian
Brody. Yeah.
But it was really a really well made movie because it's just following this guy who's just a pianist, just trying to survive, basically. Like he's a Jew, so he has
rough time.
Yeah, and it's just taking him throughout all these stages of his life, like throughout World War II. But highly recommend.
Yeah, he probably couldn't play his piano loud.
No, well, there was a scene where he was in hiding, and he had to move like twice out of different flats in Warsaw, and he came to this one flat, and he hadn't played piano in like forever, and there was a piano in there, and the guy was like, "All right, keep it down," and he just left, and he goes up to the piano, and he's just like looking at it, and then he like hovers over it and like starts playing imagining. So he's hovering over the keys.
Piano.
Wow.
I'm like, man, that must suck.
Wow.
But
Dang.
yeah, he lived until like his 88 or something like that. Played in orchestras after the war and stuff. Pretty incredible.
That sounds awesome. Well, I don't think I made it through it. If I did, I just don't remember that much about it.
It's a long movie. It's 2.5 hours. It's a very long movie.
Yeah, if you're going to do a movie 2.5 hours, something's got to happen. Something cool's got to...
Yeah.
We got to be amused. We got to not think. You know?
Got to be, yeah. Can't have any muse in that movie.
Okay. Did you have any more questions for... Because if you don't, I have more. But...
You have more questions for him?
Uh-huh.
Keep going.
Huh?
Keep going. I'm interested.
Okay, so going along with the hippies, did you see evolution take over in your lifetime? Like, is it something that you noticed? Because for me and Josh, it's never not been evolution. It's always been like science books. We're tadpoles. We got legs. We got brains.
Talking about like an idea or ideology like that of evolution.
However he
like
wants to.
Belief in evolutionary theory embedded in society?
Maybe, yeah, kind of.
Well, no, I think it's been embedded in society since Darwin's On the Origin of the Species, 1859, as far as giving it some semblance of scientific credibility. So now they have a theory and they have a framework by which they can interpret, their findings in the fields of geology or, anthropology and such. So from that time on, it began to become more mainstream in science. So yeah, whenever I was growing up, it was definitely in the books.
Okay, so you didn't there wasn't. Okay, that's interesting.
But growing up in Oklahoma, it was more Bible Belt, as far as the sentiment on the popular level. So it wasn't pushed, as if to say you're stupid if you don't believe it. In fact, probably most of the teachers that I remember might have just skipped the chapters because they didn't care to touch on it and just talked about real science. You know what I'm saying? So in Oklahoma, it really wasn't
so it wasn't like
something that influenced my thinking. I'd obviously heard of it, but so
it wasn't a part of the curriculum in your school. Like you had to talk about this.
It was something that the school demanded the science teachers cover. Yeah. They have a textbook, and then you're not going to cover everything in the textbook in the class, so the teachers get to be selective.
Yeah.
So maybe that was what you were getting at, but it's it was definitely there though. It's always been there, but with being in the Bible Belt, it was not probably taken nearly as seriously as it might have been in other places.
Yeah, because I feel like when I grew up, and it's a little bit different for me because I was homeschooled, but it was like in regular school, there was no other option. It was evolution. It was pushed hard. All of our basis is based around evolution. Wow. Like I'm like 5 years old, and they're like, yeah, the Earth is. Which, funnily enough, they're like the Earth is 1 billion years old, and now it's like 7 billion or whatever, and it just keeps getting pushed back and back. Mm-hmm. So I was interested if you being older, if you were around for...
It was probably only 100 million years old whenever you were in high school.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing stuff like that in any detail, other than, just maybe the general idea that we came from monkeys.
Okay.
We started off in a warm pond, with...
warm pond?
Yeah, with just single-cell amoeba.
Like stagnant water?
Eventually, over millions of years of progress, we evolved into man. But it was never something that occupied my thinking or anybody else that I was very close to. And it wasn't something that the science teachers taught a lot. I mean, we learned more about, like, how the cell works or, molecules and things like that. But so
yeah.
Thankfully, that is.
Yeah.
It's true.
Have to be bombarded by that. So.
Yeah, we get a lot of all of our thinking in popular science right now, I guess, is based on one thing, evolution, and, how we come from monkeys and we're essentially animals, and how that dictates a lot of times our psychology, like the way we react to certain things. We're like, oh, well, rats react to electrical stimuli in one way, and so therefore humans ought to act the same way. There's no other possible, conscience or something affecting the way they act. So that's one thing I always think is interesting about evolution, is how much it's prescribed and how much it's the only theory prescribed. And so and how much of science is based on a theory. And people are saying it's undisputable now. The interesting thing to me is that a lot of people are actually, a lot of real legitimate scientists and secular scientists, not from a Christian perspective, are like, dude, evolution does not work. So they're coming up with neo-evolution to explain a lot of things. And there's a dude that I've been listening to, Stephen Meyer, that's done a lot of looking into it, and it's definitely worth a listen because he's extremely smart. Well, they basically realized it's not possible from life to come from nothing. So it has to have come from somewhere. They're like, it has to come from somewhere. And then so the whole point behind evolution is that we're evolving. But the thing that they are trying to prove, and pretty much have already proved, is after 20 iterations of evolving, the creature is not, let me think about the right words. It's not viable anymore. Like, you can only evolve a cell so much into where it loses its basic thermoviability. And it's like obvious. It's like, dude, if you keep putting wings on a bat, at some point it's not going to be able to fly. And so that's one of the ways that there's a lot more ways that they're discrediting it, but that's one of the big factors.
Yeah. You mentioned, was it Stephen Meyer?
Yeah, that's
Michael
my G.
Behe. These are some of the guys who started what's called the intelligent design movement. So they're just pointing to places where the evolutionary theory cannot hold water.
Yeah.
And they've narrowed it down to focus on a certain area, what they call irreducible complexity. So in other words, if they can identify certain complexity in the design of organisms that cannot be explained by evolutionary theory, then they're showing that evolutionary theory must be rejected as a theory.
Yeah.
Because it no longer meets the evidence that is presented to scientists. And so Darwin's Black Box, for example, is one of Michael Behe's books, but it focuses on the complexity of the sperm cell. And it talks about the different component parts of a sperm cell that has, the flagella or whatever, the tail that whips.
Yeah.
It talks about the kind of motor that is made up of organic material that is necessary. All of the complexity that's necessary to make that run cannot have evolved. There's too many parts to the sperm cell that had to have evolved at the same time from different angles in order to complete a sperm cell.
Yeah.
And that, of course, violates the very principle of organic evolution. And so they're saying this particular cell is one among many examples of complexity that cannot be reduced any further than that, and that cannot be something that evolved over time. So that is a defeater for evolutionary theory. So, the area is called intelligent design, the ID movement. And so that might be what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the shortcomings of naturalistic evolutionary theory, I think, have really being recognized now by scientists that are out there. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Is the that guy Stephen Meyer? He works with some organization. I think I heard you talk about that a couple last month or something.
I can't
But you said there's in Dallas they have like a lab or something. Am I thinking about this correctly?
No, you're thinking of like creation scientists, like ICR, Institute for Creation Research, and things like this, I think.
Probably.
Stephen Meyer is not with that particular effort. He's more with what's called intelligent design, and it's not really seeking to prove the existence of God.
Yeah.
What it's doing is showing that there's evidence in the scientific discipline for an intelligent designer.
Yeah.
And so that's the only conclusion they're trying to reach. Of course, the implications of that are clear. If there's an intelligent designer, that defeats naturalistic evolution. So I think it's a noble effort, but it's not a religious effort, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But ICR, Institute for Creation Research, is a religious effort because they're trying to uphold the biblical teaching about the origin of life and the origin of the world and the origin of the universe. So that's more of a religious effort. Institute for Creation Research, Answers in Genesis, Creation Ministries International. So these are religious efforts. But Stephen Meyer and Michael Behe are not religious people. They're scientists.
And I was trying to listen to it. It was really funny. I was trying to listen to I think his name was Gerd Müller. It was either Gerd or Gert Müller, which is like a German biologist, talk about him basically proposing neo-evolution. And I'll be honest, dude, trying to watch that stuff is the most complicated. But through the whole lesson, he's like, yeah, evolution as Darwin imposed it does not work. And he's like one of the top speakers at one of the biggest science committees out there. And so it's just interesting to me that we're still, all of the schools, no schools have neo-evolution in the science books. They're still teaching kids, everything came from a single cell that popped out of a warm pool, like you said, and now we're monkeys and people. And how many implications that has on all of our society. Like, there's so many things based on evolution.
The practical implications are, if we believe that we're animals, we begin thinking like that and acting like that, and that's when you run into the problems of, the kinds of, like you said, psychological disorders, mental disorders, and such that you have in pretty widespread now that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for that kind of indoctrination. So. But I don't know that much about neo-evolutionism. I'd have to look I just been kind of out of the loop on some of the latest advancements in that. But yeah, Darwin's theory as far as, evolution occurring by natural selection that acts on mutation is, it doesn't hold any water any longer, I don't think. Yeah.
And he said it himself. If we don't figure it out in 20 years, it's probably a stupid idea. It's probably a pipe dream.
Yeah.
So this first single cell that Darwin says it comes from a warm pool.
I don't know.
Where does the warm pool come from?
Right. Yeah, you just keep going back.
I never heard warm pool.
I think
that his book only sought to extrapolate on his framework for organic evolution, meaning the evolution of life. So he didn't talk about the origin of the universe, the origin of matter, and things like this, but he was saying when life gets going, this is how it is able to grow in its complexity. But like you said, he even put defeaters in his book, saying, if we don't find this, then or here is an example of something that would be a defeater to my theory. So. But we're way past that.
Yeah.
Almost 200 years.
That's funny. All right. Well, I still got more unless you do.
Really?
Yeah.
Keep going.
Unless I got time for one more.
Okay.
Off.
Oh, dang.
Busy man.
We saved the best for last.
Did we?
We saved the best for last.
Well, I might have to go early then.
So.
Does it have to do with slugs?
It's not slugs.
Okay, good.
It's humanity's single greatest achievement, as proposed by some. Do you think, or have you ever pondered with the idea that we possibly didn't make it to the moon?
It maybe possibly didn't make it to the moon?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you hear that? You're saying, what is my thinking about the possibility that the whole moon landing thing was a hoax?
We don't have to, we don't have to use such harsh words. Just
I have no idea. I don't know why we would have any reason to doubt it. So I guess I would have to hear the evidence from those who are claiming it's a hoax.
How much time you got?
I don't have much time. I don't have much concern either. I don't care.
Well, I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about recently because I heard somebody talking about it. And the big problem with it is the guy that I was listening to total dork. So it makes it hard for you to believe in his theory. Whenever
He's such a nerd.
When the guy's name is Bart, if dude's name is Bart, it's hard to track. But the one interesting thing is the real problem of the Van Allen belts around the Earth, which is there's radiation belts at a certain distance around the Earth. And there's a couple of contemporary ways that we've basically proposed getting around those, but they don't really make that much sense. Like so the belts are not like giant circles around the Earth in every direction. They're like pool tubes, like inner tubes. So they're around the sides of the Earth.
Connected to the moon landing?
Yes. Oh. So in order to get to the moon, you'd have to travel through these Van Allen belts, which are like extremely toxic radiation. And with the 1950s technology or whenever it was, 54, I think. I don't know. I don't remember. There's almost no way we could have got through those belts with our knowledge.
Wait, we did though.
Did we?
Yeah.
So now the question is not did we land on the moon, but did we even ever go into outer space as well?
No. Okay, so the one thing that's not refutable is we definitely went into space. There's thousands of people that saw the rocket go into space. And so it's 100%. The rocket was in space. People came from space down to the Earth. They saw the crash landing, like tons of eyewitnesses. The dispute is how far we've actually made it into space, because the Van Allen belt actually starts at like around 1,000 miles away from the surface of the Earth. So, because we have like the, what's it called? The station, the space station is always orbiting.
Now this is all assuming that the Earth is round too, right?
True.
So
no.
Are you even sure?
No.
Wait,
I don't think. I think
have to do heard the arguments.
No, the flat Earth
is really a disc.
Flat Earth is the stupidest thing possible. But the moon landing does have some valid points.
How dare you use such harsh words,
If we're going to
Shane.
be so open-minded that our brains fall out, then why not?
I don't know the science behind the flat Earth, but
I'm just kidding.
The moon landing is interesting because it just logically, if you're thinking about it, okay, if it was so easy for us to get to the moon.
So easy.
Or if we were able to do it.
Okay, you do it.
With all of NASA's computer having a millionth of the processing power of an iPhone, all of their computers combined, we were able to do it. But now the farthest we've gotten is to the space station with human occupants. Isn't that a little weird that after 54 years or whatever it's been?
No, of course, I'm just speaking as completely a layperson. I have no idea about the science behind this, but I can just come up with what I think would be a direction to pursue in order to test this.
I mean,
when you talk about the proximity of our moon to the Earth in relation to our proximity to the next nearest thing that we could land on.
As far.
You realize here, this is something I have done in certain evidences classes. If we were to put it on a scale from the Earth to the moon and make that 4 foot.
Okay, 4 feet.
In order to get to Alpha Centauri, which is the next near star.
Okay.
You have to go about 4 miles. Okay?
So 10,000 feet.
That's not even talking about the next planet.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's not like, if we could make it to the moon in 1969, then why in the world couldn't we make it to Venus or Mars, in 1979?
Well, my point
was that might be a leap of,
Wait. Well, my point is that we haven't made it back to the moon. We haven't even gone as far as humans.
I guess the question would be, do we feel the need to? Like, why would we? I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know the answer to these questions. I'm just saying, just to raise the question isn't very persuasive to me, because I'm thinking there's, NASA might say, well, we landed on the moon. We see what's there now. As far as the research money and the things that we have, we just don't think that's a lofty goal now. We're going to be doing something else. We're going to be sending probes to Mars and so forth, and rovers to these other places. But I don't know. I'll stop talking now. But
those are valid points. That there's like it's not as hype to get to the moon once you've already been there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I do think it's
it was
interesting.
also like super risky, right? Because you had to go. Like, if you were going to land on the moon, you had to orbit it first, right? And so when you got on the one side of the moon, you had, like, no connection, radio contact, because you're on the other side of a planet or star.
The dark of the moon.
The dark side of the moon, because you had no radio contact. And so you have to get on the other side to get back radio contact, and then you can land. So it's like, is it worth it?
Is it? Well, I mean, I would think it's worth it if people like Elon Musk are like, we got to become interplanetary and
but why the moon?
Mars
we rely so much on the moon. Why mess up the moon?
Yeah, I guess I would think maybe they're thinking the most reasonable route to go is a space station. You know, like building something to put there that orbits the Earth that could be another center of population.
That'd be interesting.
Might be way, out of reason to decide to try to colonize that because of the harsh environment, et cetera. I really don't know, but. I've just never. I don't guess I have ever doubted the moon landing, but
I haven't either. But
I really cared.
I haven't either. But I heard one dude talk about it, and I was like, he's making some good points.
Well, I guarantee you could hear people talk about the flat Earth and think, "Wow,
yeah,
I really don't know how to answer that."
And then you can hear somebody else rebutting that, and you're like, "Oh,
it's just like any other thing." But you're thinking, is there really that kind of an organized conspiracy to the extent that the moon landing has been a hoax for 50 years.
Well,
it's like, boy, I just don't know if I can buy into that. If that's the case, what in the world can you believe? It's like,
yeah, losing trust in institutions.
DC really there?
Yeah, that's one of the.
Is the sun real?
Is the sun real?
The Van Allen belts is funny though because.
I don't guess I understand the point. So explain that one more time for me. The Van Allen
You're just saying
belts.
we couldn't go through the Van Allen belts?
So the Van Allen belts are like, a pool tube like that looks like a donut?
Yeah.
There's two of those around the Earth. So not at the top and not at the bottom. Antarctica and Arctica. Yeah. And so, but the thing is, we can't launch through Antarctica because it's cold, right? Like all of our space stations are on basically the equator because the equator has the easiest path to escape velocity rather than doing it on the top or the bottom. So that being said, you would have to travel through the Van Allen belts. And the other reason for this being such a problem or being a real thing is the Van Allen belts have been studied even to the point where, I don't know the year, but it's Operation Starfish Prime. We were like, these Van Allen belts are becoming a problem to us because we can't figure out how to get around them. What should we do? So they sent a nuke into space. It's a real thing. They sent a nuke into space to try to blow them up.
They sent radiation to blow up radiation?
Yes, bro.
Did you say in order to get to the moon, you have to go through them?
Yes.
But you don't deny that we've sent rovers to like Mars?
No, we definitely, because you can send a rover and they don't have to worry about dying. Humans going through the Van Allen belt would be like getting 10,000 X-rays at once. It's like the radiance.
Well, here's the thing. How do we not know that whenever they launched the space shuttle, from wherever, I forgot where it was, but when they launched the space shuttle, they couldn't just like go around above Antarctica and go out?
Because of the path, because everything kind of works like rubber bands, the paths that you have to take, you have to go through them in order to use Earth's gravity to eject you from orbit and enter into orbit. It's physically impossible to just come at the Earth like a 90-degree angle.
That's what I'm saying. So you can go up or down, whichever way. Outside the radius of this Van Allen belt thing. You
have to. It's just the way it is. And the proof
says who?
The proof of it being the right way it is we spent a literal nuke at them because they're like, these dudes are getting in the way.
But the nuke didn't work, I assume.
No, it was insane. Why would we're just blowing off nukes in space acting like there couldn't be consequences.
You never know until you try.
I never heard of any of that before.
Well,
but
that's why you come to the Honest Honkies podcast.
That's right.
But it's not like a lot of people will bring up these conspiracies and they're like, we should lose all trust in institutions and completely, just disregard our government and our military and all that thing. It doesn't have to be like that. It just is okay to raise plausible questions and be like, okay, we're at war with Russia. It's obviously we're way cooler if we make it to the moon first. There's a lot to lose. There's $200 billion government contracts to get to the moon. There's a lot of money to go around. It's not implausible for them to just be like, you know what? It's going to do all of America good if we just say we got there. Even though there's some serious problems.
If we just went to Hollywood, set up a soundstage, got it, got people hanging from wires, bouncing.
One of the best proofs against the moon hoax is the soundstage would be extremely hard to make for one reason. Whenever they went to the moon, they brought 3 Land Rovers to literally just go-kart around the moon. And so they have videos of those Land Cruisers like roaming the moon. And the tires, when they kick up the dust, the way the particles fall is almost impossible to replicate on the Earth because we don't have 1/6 the gravity of the moon. So that's the only thing that I was like, well, that kind of looks like they went.
The only thing?
That's the only thing. I looked at a ton of arguments for, a ton of arguments against. I watched this British dude that was trying to convince me, and I said, no, sir.
So will you say on air that you believe the moon landing is fake?
Let me think about what the percentage is. I'm going to say 80% we didn't go.
80%? Because,
or at least 80% there was a lot of finagling, because there's a lot of pictures that don't make sense. Just like shadows going at 90-degree angles, and all of those people will refute. They'll say,
I wonder why it doesn't make sense. Maybe because you've never been to space?
I don't know.
Could be. I don't know. Could be.
What's the implication then if it didn't happen? What do we take away from that?
I think it's the same thing as we're learning now. Everything out of mainstream media is not truth. There's one truth.
I don't need the moon landing to be fake to know that. Yeah, I guess I was just wondering, like, what would that imply? Like, what does it mean? There's been all kinds of false information.
Yeah.
We've been talking about all of the information in textbooks about various evolutionary, theories or evolutionary evidences that have been proven outright to be hoaxes.
Yeah.
But they were in textbooks for years, Nebraska Man or Piltdown Man or certain of these evidences of, cavemen that prove evolution, and then the purveyors of the hoaxes are discovered.
Yep.
And then, of course, the textbooks are already bought and they're on the shelves in the schools, and so they continue to use them for the next 2 decades, even though everybody knows that they're hoaxes. So, I guess all I'm saying is, definitely you can't believe everything that you hear, and not even everything that's in a nice hardback book, that you get in school. So certainly, that's valid.
Yeah, I think maybe the takeaway would just be, like the trope is don't believe everything on Google. Well, the trope should be like have a curious mind. Like let your mind not just intake information and then pretty much, unless it's the Bible, pretty much never intake information and immediately assess it as true. Like intake information, use it against the Bible because that's true, and then versus other things that you've heard.
Yeah, I would say that should be sound advice from every parent to every child. Never just believe something because a teacher tells you that.
No matter who it is. If it's NASA.
Right.
Because they didn't do it. Right. No.
But, certainly. Certainly so. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on and putting up with the old gray beard for a little bit.
What time are we at?
We're almost at an hour.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Dang. He said he could only do 30. Yeah. We kept him around.
It was the moon landing that kept me here. I was so intrigued.
Gripped you so hard.
I was so intrigued by the Orion belt or whatever you called it earlier.
The Van Allen belt.
The Van Halen belt.
True, actually. That's how they got it. No.
Yeah.
No, I'll convince him after.
But yeah, I'm on my motorcycle, so I'm going to get before it gets too dark.
Oh, yeah.
True.
And
all right.
So.
Well, can you give us a honk out? we ask all of our guests to honk into the mic at the end of the episode.
Have you listened to an episode?
Auga! Auga!
That's the best one we've ever got right there.
Yeah, we don't know nothing, but we hope you enjoy the something. We just don't keep that no. You know we have fun and it doesn't bust it. We love you, homie. May we keep the gravy and stuff, man. Gravy and stuff, and I keep your mom in a Dutch oven. Gravy and stuff. Gravy and stuff. Gravy and stuff, man.